Hello, amazing entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 262, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/262. In today's episode, I'm going to help you get your best return on investment from attending a virtual conference. Now, I do have a little ulterior motive for sharing this in particular this week because we are just a few days out from the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference. But regardless of whether it's the Heart-Centered Conference that you're going to or any virtual conference or summit, this episode of the podcast is going to help you to maximize the return on investment that you get from putting your time and money into going to a virtual conference. So if you've got some online events that you're going to be attending this year, this is going to be a very helpful episode for you. Let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Before I jump into my 4 tips for you to maximize your return on investment from a virtual conference, I do want to remind you that the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference is happening from the 11th to the 14th of March, 2021. So if you're listening to this before then, make sure you head on over to the show notes at tashcorbin.com/262 to grab your ticket. This is an event that you do not want to miss. We balance inspiration with education and implementation. We have an all-female lineup of speakers on stage this year, and we have some amazing, practical, tangible workshops that you are going to love and that will transform your experience of your business and life. So go and check it all out if you are listening to this before the 11th of March. Now, let's talk about getting massive return on investment from an event like this. Number one, you want to make sure that you block time. Now, I know that this might sound like really straightforward and simple, but the amount of people who've already got tickets to the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference who have accidentally let clients book time in during that conference is actually astounding. So make sure that you block out the time for that event and go to as much of it as live as possible. Now, for some people who might be in different time zones to the event that they're going to, that might mean adjusting the way that you run your day, allowing yourself to go to bed a little earlier so you can get up a little earlier, or staying up a little later and giving yourself a sleep in the next day. But the more that you can attend live, it does actually make a difference, especially when it's an engaged and interactive event. So block out time during that event. But I also recommend you block out time afterwards. So I usually like to block out the 2 days after a conference, and that's the same whether it's a virtual conference or an in-person conference. So for at least 2 days, I've blocked out time to process, go for walks, rest, and also get clear on how I'm going to apply this in my business and make some plans as a result of going to that conference. I also like to book in a weekly 1-hour review. So I do like maybe 10 weeks after I go to an event, I'll book in a 1-hour conference implementation session or a conference debrief session with myself. And I will be 100% honest, I don't do all 10 of them, right? Sometimes I'll skip them, but blocking 10 weeks in a row out in my calendar of like an hour appointment with myself for 10 weeks will maximize my opportunity to implement and therefore get that return on investment. And, there's active time and there's passive time. There's time to listen to recordings or listen to the conference, but then there's time where you actively putting that in place in your business. So make sure you block out that time accordingly. Number 2 tip is to form a posse. So whether you form that posse before the event, so with the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference, we have a Facebook community of attendees. So we've already had a few people saying anyone in this time zone who wants to form a posse and, do little debriefs with each other and catch up after the event. Absolutely amazing. So you can form a posse before the event. If there's an event members group or something along those lines, you can form a posse at the event. If you're chatting in the chat box or you go to a networking breakout session and you strike up a conversation with someone, don't be afraid to say to them, hey, and don't be afraid of rejection. Some people might say no, but that's okay. You never know if you don't ask. But just say to them, hey, I really love what we've talked about. I'm thinking I might get like 3 or 4 people together to talk about conference afterwards and make sure we're implementing. Would you like to be part of my posse? And then you're looking out for them in the chat box. You are engaging after the event and making sure you're implementing, because that is where the ROI comes from for a lot of online events and conferences. So form yourself a little posse. Now, I've got a little extra tip for you on forming a posse. One of the things we do at the virtual conference, for the Heart Centre Virtual Business Conference, is we have the VIP ticket option. And in that VIP ticket option, you get a 4-month mastermind after conference. So you don't even need to strike up a conversation with a stranger or reach out to anyone in the conference. If you join with a VIP ticket, I help you form that posse, because we have a small group mastermind that we do after conference, and that goes for 4 months. We have 4 live calls once a month for 4 months. It's got its own Facebook group, and it's a much more intimate group. So you're going to have that posse formed for you, and you can even form little sub posses in there as well. So buying a VIP ticket for the Heart Centre Virtual Business Conference in particular does help with forming that posse. Number 3, set goals. And I have 4 goals that I want you to set before you go to any online event or conference. Number 1, what do you want to learn? Number 2, what decisions do you need to make that going to this conference will help you make? What is it that you need to decide? Number 3, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel after this conference and once you've implemented what you've learned? And then number 4, what is your participation goal? So set yourself a goal of how much you want to participate. Do you want to be active in the chat box? Do you want to be one of the leaders of the networking breakout sessions? Do you want to find a small group and participate with them that way? Do you want to commit to sharing one aha from every session? Do you want to make sure you're following all of the speakers and tag them on Instagram? Those sorts of behaviors, that level of participation will maximize your return on investment. So think about what you want to do in terms of your participation. So 4 goals. What do you want to learn? What do you need to decide? How do you want to feel? And how are you going to participate? And then my final piece of advice for maximizing your return on investment, especially from a virtual conference, is to shine. And shining doesn't necessarily mean you need to turn into a magical extrovert, but shining does mean give yourself the maximum opportunity to shine. Go to as much of it as live as you can. Make sure that you're sharing and participating in the members group or the attendees group. Make sure that you're clear on who you are and what you stand for and what your business is about, so that when people say, oh, what's your business? You know how to answer that question confidently, and you don't go, oh, I don't really know. Move on to someone else, right? So you're not avoiding the conversation. Do the preparation that you need to ensure that you show up and shine, because you are absolutely a shiny, amazing, vibrant human being. It's just that often it's a lack of preparation or lack of deciding, I'm going to show up and shine at this event, is what stops you from actually showing up and shining. And the reason why I'm talking about showing up and shining as part of your ROI, especially for the Heart Centre Virtual Business Conference, is 1, I select speakers from the virtual conference from the attendees who would come to conference. So if you're particularly prolific in the chat box, if you have something that I think would be really valuable for my audience and you are really actively engaged in conference, then you're more likely to be someone I select as a speaker for the next conference. Number 2, the people who show up and shine at this event often get clients from this event. We are always seeing how many of the people at conference are each other's ideal clients and could really benefit from their services. And then number 3, when you show up and shine, it creates this confidence snowball. And I want you to experience that confidence snowball. And I would love for the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference to be the space where you experience it. So if you haven't yet come over and checked out at the show notes, go to tashcorbin.com/262. I would love to see you at the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference. And with these 4 tips, hopefully you'll get epic ROI. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.